Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here. Sorry, I'm still doing videos at home. My car's broke down, so I can't get to the park. But I'll get those squirrels back in the video just as soon as I get mobile again. Now, I did a speaking engagement in Kansas a while back, and while sitting in Chicago waiting for my flight, CNN was on. I was treated to the spectacle of a reporter marching with the Ferguson protesters. He was interviewing the head of the NAACP, an organization that is no longer what it started out to be. Whatever those initials stand for nowadays, I'm quite certain the last ones stand for always accusing Caucasian people. The man was talking about racial profiling, and he gave a list of young black men who had been killed by police over the last few years. I was familiar with most of them, and the ones I knew were killed while committing violent crimes. And at least one, Michael Brown, was killed while assaulting the police officer who was investigating him for a robbery he had just committed. So I sat there thinking what a perfect opening for the reporter to ask what the NAACP is doing, if anything, to stem the tide of violent crimes being committed by young black men that always seem to be the initial cause of these police shootings. But much to my surprise, the reporter just let the head of the NAACP rant about how they know that blacks are profiled, and so are Muslims, homosexuals, and Hispanics. And they know this how? And he says the laws must be changed to stop such atrocities, blah, blah, blah. Really? Change what laws? The law already requires that an officer have a reasonable suspicion for contacting and detaining anyone. Do they want to legalize robbery by young black men? Is that going to be a new civil right? Give them a monthly limit as to how much they're allowed to rob, and once they hit their monthly limit, they have to stop robbing people until the first of the month? Is assaulting police officers going to be a new amateur sport? How about this? Any young black man who feels that a white police officer has stopped him not for the crime he just committed, but because he's black, shall have the right to give the officer a beatdown in the name of tolerance. And if the officer defends himself, the officer shall be charged with resisting civil rights and fired for being a bigot. Is this the kind of world the NAACP is pushing for? Now, there are those who will say, Bill, you have no right to speak on this issue because you're white. You can't possibly understand. Well, guess what? I can speak on these issues. I worked in a black neighborhood as a deputy sheriff for Broward County, Florida back in the 80s. District 2 in the area of Martin Luther King and Broward Boulevard. And I got to know a lot of the people. Mrs. McDonald was a friend of mine. I met her when she walked up to my patrol car one night and said, "Mr. Policeman, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am," and stepped out of my car. She told me she was walking the streets trying to find her crack addict son. Another deputy, Steve Sharla, had tried to help the young man and even got him enlisted into the Marine Corps. But drugs won out and the kid was back on the street. And just for the record, Steve Sharla is also white, but you'll never hear stories of white cops going out of their way to help black families. Those stories don't fit the agenda. The last thing Mrs. McDonald said to me that night broke my heart. She said, "Mr. Policeman, I'm just waiting for my son to die." I talked with Mrs. McDonald many times over the next few months. The last time I saw her, she was laying on her living room floor with her intestines spilled on the floor after her son took a butcher knife to her. And the NAACP was nowhere to be found. How many times did Officer Darren Wilson go out of his way to help a black family in his district? How many of those young black men did Wilson chat with, laugh with, and encourage to be good men and to make something of their lives? Every law enforcement officer I worked the streets with occasionally did things like that. I've seen them buy groceries for families that had none, to give gas money to guys so that they could get to work. And I bet Wilson did too. There is no way Darren Wilson could work a rough area like that for years without a single complaint unless he was a man who gave respect where it's deserved. How many black citizens did Darren Wilson go out of his way to help during his years of service? I think America deserves to know the answer to that. I think every officer who worked with Wilson should be interviewed. Let's hear the rest of the story. I know the young men Wilson encouraged won't dare say anything good about Wilson. They might get lynched. But the officers can sure speak out. Fox News, this would be a good project for Jesse Waters. I don't think any other major news outlet has the integrity to pursue the other side of the story. To my friends and supporters, send this video to every news outlet you can. Let's see if any real journalists will answer the challenge to look for something good about Officer Darren Wilson, or if they will just let the crucifixion continue. America, it's time for some honest dialogue on race relations in America. That has been a one-way conversation for far too long. This is Wild Bill for America. Thank you for watching, and America bless God again.